This is the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 86. Online versus offline. Where are my people? With guest and lifestyle builder, Nuno Pires.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like I'm a huge fan, especially early on, of like basically doing the things that don't scale. So just to your point about like, Karate Kid and now people just want to instantly get results.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at the internet and social media where like, oh, well, if I just make some posts or I do this and I put a sales funnel in place, everything will just start working.
Yeah.
The realities of what we find is that usually the things that really make a big difference early on are talking to people.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Tired of putting in long hours doing what everyone says you should and still not making money? Sounds like you're ready for Lifestyle Builders. We'll help you get back on track, taking action, and seeing results. Head over to joinlifestylebuilders.com today to get started.
A little bit more about our guest, Nuno, before we dive into today's show. My name is Nuno Pires, and I'm a sport performance coach. I'm from Portugal. I've traveled to Ireland to visit a friend 11 years ago, and I'm living in Dublin since then. With a background in mixed martial artist, I'm a black belt. I love NLP, personal coaching, hypnosis, and sports psychology. My primary role is personal empowerment, helping clients to transform their lives. They will gain mental strength, becoming winners in sport and life. My motto is from worrier to winner. All right. So this episode with Nuno was really inspiring, I think, for me because he has kind of gone through a lot. Like he's done a lot in his life. And now he's come to the point where he wants to start giving back and helping other people achieve greatness.
Yeah, well, and I think what he's going through is what a lot of people go through, especially those with different experiences. Is like, I've got all this knowledge. How do I bring it together and really figure out like who I serve and then how I find them?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we talked about was, do you do online stuff? Do you do offline stuff? Or is there a combination? And I think that's the challenge a lot of people have is that they kind of see or hear what other people tell them they should do
Mm-hmm.
rather than figuring out what works best for them. And we kind of walked through some of that with Nuno.
Yeah. And he talked about like the 80-20, like what should I be spending more of my time on? And his struggle with, was it showing up on social media versus spending time doing things in person with people. And he was really struggling to figure out like where he should be spending that time. And then when he's doing that, how it should look as well.
Yeah, well, because I mean, the big thing here, and this goes across the board, you find where your people are. And then once you find it, then you've got to kind of take them on this path or on this journey to have them figure out, are you the right person to help them? And then, ultimately get them to say either yes or no. So we talked a little bit about kind of what that journey looks like and then even dove into like discovery calls. And I just shared a little bit of like how we do discovery calls and not necessarily to get everyone to buy, but to help people figure out what is it that I'm looking for? And then ultimately, are these the people or is this the person that can help me get there?
Yeah. And with that, we'll let you dive in. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lifestyle Builders. And we have one of our very own members, Nuno, on today. Thank you so much for coming on, Nuno.
Thank you for having me.
And before we jump into some of the things you wanted to chat about on today's show, I'd love to kind of get a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship and becoming a lifestyle builder. So tell us, when did you start and what does the journey look like for you so far?
Okay, like the journey probably started already many years ago. At that time, there was no internet, there was no social media. I think I saw the other day Karate Kid, the new version, and kind of represents, the old school that everyone trains. And actually, I started also teaching martial arts. That was my background. I was teaching on the University of Évora and the National Institute of Sports in Portugal. But that was actually like that. The movie represents exactly for the difference between the movie and the series, what happened in the meantime, in the last 20 years or so. That is social media. The things are different. People don't want to train so much. They want results fast, like Matrix, that you just put the CD and you learn martial arts in a second. So basically my journey now was probably like 5, 6 years ago, I was always connected to psychology. I studied in the past in the universities, even if I was studying physics and chemistry at that time. And I started to do courses by kind of pure curiosity, more self-learning like NLP, coaching, hypnosis. And at some stage I was kind of, okay, I really want to do something with this because I kind of try different things in life. And this was always, I think, that call that is inside that you try to ignore, you try to push and, oh no, it's a 9-to-5 job. But to be honest, I already knew what was coming because as I've been entrepreneur in the past, and I knew that now will be new challenge, like the game changed a lot. It's kind of, there is more information. In the past, for me, I will ask some VHS tapes from the States. Now you have all the information out there. So I think it gives you the other side that is with so much information where you kind of push the noise and get focus, and that's, to be honest, is been the journey that I kind of, okay, I'm learning at the moment. It's self-learning and also learning from others that already did in the past. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, and that's such an important point that you make too, because you almost went from like not having enough information in the past to now there's so much information out there. And one of the common challenges I think a lot of people run into is like, because there's so much, like, I don't know where to focus in.
Yep.
And I know like for us, and I think for you guys as well, the ability to be able to kind of find like the right person or the right coach or the right program makes all the difference, because then you can focus in on just what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's, to be honest, I think is the main point. Like, I know probably people that did the courses with me, around 200 people, and almost 99% are struggle. And I think that's one of the things. And that was one of the things that cost me the most in terms of money personal, was to find the right people, because everyone do crazy promises now and that, oh, you will make this, you'll make this. But and it's like the diets, the diet of the 4 days and the 5 days. But if you really want to lose weight and get healthy, it's a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
So I try a few things in the internet, local, and the only reason actually I accepted to come here actually was there were like 2 or 3 groups that I really like it. For some reason, they connect to me, they connect with what I want, and you were one of them. So.
Yeah, and we're so happy to have you with us. And I know one of the things that you kind of wanted to chat about today was more around the planning and prioritizing.
Yeah.
So talk to us more about what you're struggling with or looking for some help with there.
Like the idea at the moment is kind of the first few years are done. I think the first few years is kind of learn. It's kind of trying, you try different things. I tried different, from helping people stop smoking or with losing weight or with anxiety. And now I really want to focus more on a specific thing. It's kind of find a sweet spot that where I'm really good, and don't try to play too many instruments at the same time. If you play all the instruments, you never become good in something. And that is actually like what I want to do at the moment, is kind of that rule of the 20-80%. That is what I want to focus in the next like 2, 3, 4, 6 months. That really make impact, because as I was saying in the beginning, there is all these noises and so many things, and we get distracted. Oh, and we see a new thing, and oh, there, and after there, and yeah, you know the story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say we've been there, and we've seen a lot of people there. The first thing that I'll say is what tends to happen for most people is that they're starting like with where they're at now, and they see all these possibilities. And when you see all the possibilities, or you're listening to like a lot of different sources of information, it's then so hard to figure out like which one should I follow or which one should I do. So the first thing we always recommend is looking ahead at what you want things to look like in the future, like what some of your goals are, and then that can essentially act as a filter, because now when we then bring it back and say, okay, there's 10 different ways we could go or 10 different things we could do, we can start saying, okay, which one or which two of those have the best chance of getting us to where we want to be?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're, like what are some of the things that you're considering or that are on your plate now that maybe are like the 80% that we want to trim down to really get that 20%?
I think now, to be honest, I think that was something else, but I think in a way I already know the answer. That was like where you focus on the social media or on the local market, so basically the people you are around. Even if I want to do some social media, to be honest, even these interviews, it's not something I really like it, Also, I think will be too much noise and people will not be able to be talking with me. And I think human and emotional connection are really important. It's where I give my best and that the clients will get the best from me. So I think at the moment, to be honest, where I should be focused, and if you have any other suggestions, please let me know. It's more actually start to do talks and trainings with people I already know and organizations, because that is the first I can show myself first out there, and that will be a good starting point for actually after create conversations with other people.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like I'm a huge fan, especially early on, of like basically doing the things that don't scale. So just to your point about like, Karate Kid and now people just want to instantly get results.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at the internet and social media where like, oh, well, if I just make some posts or I do this and I put a sales funnel in place, everything will just start working.
Yeah.
The realities of what we find is that usually the things that really make a big difference early on are talking to people. Yeah. I mean,
making connections.
And this could be in person. This could be like virtually with like phone calls like this. But the more that you can talk to the people you want to help, the more you're going to get clarity about who they are, what challenges do they have, and the more you're going to build that rapport so that when you see an opportunity to help them, you can then offer that up, and they build some of that rapport with you so that they're more likely to join. So I think, with you, the thing that I'd be looking for is I always want to find where do the people I want to help and serve congregate. And I think we talked about this a little bit before.
Yes.
Doing that locally is probably like the best bet. But with that said, there might be some social media support that you can do or that you can use to then find those people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Tom. I think the social media for the beginning, I think it's more good actually to create awareness, and it can be also local, that like I'm here. And about actually, that is another thing, I think, unless you understand with the people that you are talking and what they really want, these sales tunnels and all these things online will never work. So if you don't understand the process manually, how they works manual and step by step, the automatic will never, it's like, and maybe it's not a great example, but I like old-fashioned cars, manual, and then I go automatic. The person that goes automatic probably will never good to go and never understand exactly how the things work. So yeah, I think,
Yeah. And I think for you, part of that is, like Tom said, figuring out who is it that you want to serve, because the more you can figure that out, the better chance you have of finding groups of those people. And now, we talked about locally, if you can find those people locally where they're congregating and you can go and speak or be a part of that community, that's really good. But there's also some other ways that you can do that. So a lot of countries and different types of communities have live events or conferences that they hold around those specific topic areas. So if you can start to do your research and see, so-and-so, they have a huge conference and it's going to have all of these types of people that I think I want to serve.
Yep.
Now you can go get a ticket to that conference. And even though you're not speaking or, you're not involved in it, you're still there. Now you get to go and talk to all of those people. You get to meet those people, face-to-face connections. And now when you come home, if they're following you on social, even if you don't post a lot and you're not putting a lot of your time and effort into social media, you've still got that connection. And that's going to help you, like Tom said, figure out what they're thinking, what their pain points are, what their problems are that they're trying to solve, so that when you go to offer something to people, now you better understand the people that you're offering it to and what that solution is. And now you've built your connection network. So you're not just meeting with your local groups. Now you've got people that you met at this big live event, and maybe they're telling their friends, and now you've kind of started that ball rolling a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. That comes to my mind, another thing. And what you suggest, because one thing that when we start is we try to sell, and we focus too much on the sales side, that actually we end up probably missing the client in front of us, instead of starting from the client's wall and build a relation from that. Actually, a thing that it happened to me this week, and I already implemented today twice, that was slowing down the process. Is like, it's kind of, you are not even my client, so what you really want, so slowing down the process and not jumping start to offer anything straight away. Any suggestions that you normally do to the people that work with you?
Listen to this guy do a discovery call. I think we actually, I don't know if we recorded a discovery call, but we had another Lifestyle Builder member episode with Sherry that we kind of walked through what a typical discovery call with Tom sounds like. He asks a lot of questions. So he doesn't go into a call thinking like, oh, this is a potential client. Oh, I might sell them something. It's, oh, this is a new connection. What can I learn about this person? And he goes in, he'll ask questions about the history. He'll ask questions about what their struggle is. He'll ask questions about, what else have you tried? So to get a bigger picture about what that person is actually going through and, what is the thing that is bothering them the most. And if it so happens that, you're going through the conversation and they say something and they're like, oh, I really wish I could just have help with this. And you have a solution that might help them, by all means, you can offer it to them on the call, but that isn't your sole purpose going into it. And people can really tell the difference when you get on a discovery call with somebody and you can see like they're guiding your questions towards a certain end because they want to be able to pitch to you, versus somebody who's really just asking questions, trying to understand you better. And then because they understand you better, they say, hey, I got something that might help you. Do you want to hear about it? And you have the choice to say, yeah, I'd love to. And then you can tell them. So it's more of a give and an exchange than I want to sell you something right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think for you, like, so the whole kind of term for this is like consultative selling. So like, especially for you, like you really want to serve, your clients, right? So part of this is going in and being intentional about having the conversations, but the whole point is to say, how can I really help you? And so by like, I'll take a step back. I'll have a discovery call with just about anybody. And those are like 15-minute calls, or if I'm like at a conference, maybe it's just a conversation. Like, if you're in the corner or you just got done talking to someone, I might go strike up a conversation. And what I'm trying to do when I'm asking questions during these calls or conversations is basically to say, one, let me learn enough about you so I can either understand, can I help you, or can I maybe connect you with somebody else in my network? And I want you to also start thinking about what it is that you're looking for that you want so that you have more awareness there. Because sometimes people don't realize it until you ask just the right question. And especially, this is like a coach, right? Yeah. When you ask the right question, you might spark something in them that they wanted, but they didn't realize it. So by asking some of those questions, then what you can do is say, okay, well, at the end of our conversation, if I have something I can help with, I'll offer it or I'll let you know, and then we can talk more.
Yeah.
And usually what I'll do is then have a follow-up where we dive deeper, so I actually show them the experience. And then if they want to continue on, then I can talk about here's how we can work together. I think for you, especially if you're doing the in-person stuff, it might start with a conversation, but then you can invite them to like a free session. Because especially for you, because you're doing like more of the sports and the martial arts and the physical stuff, if you can now go and show somebody the results of doing a session with you, both physically as well as mentally, now they've experienced it and they know exactly what they're going to get when they work with you.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, it reminds me a story. I had a few clients in the beginning. Most of them were actually coaches. And one friend of mine used to call me, man, I'm having this client in 2 hours time and it told me that what I think I should be doing. And I was like, why not start to listen first, team? Like, I don't know, just because the client says is A or B does not mean anything. Because in fairness, most of my clients, when they arrive to the second session, third session, most of them will say, that thing that I wanted on the beginning, forget about that. There's nothing to do with that,
Mm-hmm. Well, and, we see a lot of the same thing as well. Like one of my favorite questions is why, right? So like oftentimes people will come and I'll say, what are your goals, in the next 90 days or in the next year? And somebody might say, well, I want to grow my Instagram following. And so I'll say, why? And they're like, well, because I think this. And then I'll say, why again? And ultimately, it then gets down to the point of what they really want, which usually comes down to, I want more
customers.
Yeah, more customers, or I want more time. Or in your case, like maybe I want to improve my skill. Maybe I want to get healthier. But when you continue asking why and you get down to that, now you can serve them in a much better way.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
How it makes sense. Like actually, I didn't reply back yet. Two girls asked me today. Both of them want to change job. And I think that is the question I need to do first of all. Why you want to change job?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the changing job there is something else, but it's more easy. Okay, let's change job to see it fix everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
People think on the outcome, but they don't know what's underneath that or the process to get that outcome,
Yep. So for you, like kind of going back to the original question, how do you find like that 20% to focus on that's going to get the most result? The thought process I kind of go through is I look at the goals that we want to achieve, and then I say, which part of the process is a bottleneck or are people getting stuck at right now? Mm-hmm. So for example, like if you're not making enough sales, usually the part of the process to focus on is, do you know how to find enough of the people? And if that's then good, then we go to the next step. Do you know how to then reach out and engage with them? And that's what we're talking about here with like, online versus offline. And then it's, am I having the right conversation and the right line of questioning to get them to the point where they either decide they're not a good fit and they can go work somewhere else, or they are a good fit and I can work with them. So the thought process I would have is which of those points is the sticking point right now? And then that's where I'd be focusing my time. Because for example, let's say you know where to find people, but the messaging is just wrong. Mm-hmm. If you focus on the messaging and you talk to a lot of people and test out different messaging, once you get that right, now a lot more people can flow through to the next step, which is then saying, well, maybe here's my offer for you, or here's how I can help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you think about your process right now, where do you think is like the sticking point that if you were to focus your effort there and make it work, it would help kind of move people to the next step?
I think one was actually what I started to do today and yesterday, that is kind of slow down the initial conversation. That is like, okay, it's kind of, I think when we start, you breathe. Yes. Oh, you are a client. And now it's not like that. First, some clients I will not take in because I will prefer just to pass to someone else. I think that's how I see things. If I'm able to help, I help. If it's not the right connection, or I know someone that can help more on this particular case, or it's not even my type of client, I will do that. I think the point that I need is to craft my message also. The message is kind of, and one of the reasons is because, again, is the possibilities, because I did so much training, so much different training. It's like sometimes clients, so what you do? And I see other coaches tell exactly step by step, the way I work, it's different. It was the same as in martial arts when I was teaching. I was teaching everything I will call taekwondo, but even some days they will do ballet if I think they will improve the flexibility or whatever. And the way I coach is like that. People like process, but I kind of like to just take him on a magic travels, so they relax and they start to find answers that they never had before. But yeah, I need to craft sometimes is, for me, it's okay. I know that is okay. But for the client that is just starting the journey, possibly it's too much possibilities,
Yeah. And I mean, just from what you're describing, you're getting the results that people want. You're getting them the same results as some of the other people, or maybe better results as some of the other people. But the journey that you're taking them on is different. So I think sometimes because we're in it, we have a hard time describing what that looks like. So what's the experience you're going to have, and then what's the transformation you're going to have on the end of that? What you just described sounds like a pretty awesome experience, to have somebody who isn't going to take me step by step through the same process as they take everyone else through. They're going to customize their coaching and training for me based on what I need and what's going to get me those results faster. So I think if you can start to dive in on those differences of how you are different and you still get really good results, it'll make it easier for you to start describing that when people ask you, well, what do you do, or how do you do it? It also makes your message clearer when you're talking about it in your, Facebook post, or when you're talking about it at an event with somebody in person. And then another thing that sometimes helps with that is take somebody else that maybe doesn't know you, maybe knows you a little bit, and describe what you do to them and have them relay it back to you. So come into Lifestyle Builders and say, hey, guys, I need some help with my messaging and how I describe what I do. And then you go and describe exactly like what you just said. Here's what I do. Here's what I take people through. This is how I do it. And see what they come out of it with. Like, how would you describe what I do to somebody else? And you might get some inspiration in some of the words that they're using from an outsider's perspective, so that you can then use that in your own messaging.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, my mother does magic when she's making food, like it's it's magic. That's the only word. But when I ask her, so how I do that? And she's like, well, this color and this time. And I was like, yeah, but how much time? It's more or less, I need the time. And you see by the color and the smell, and like, I don't know what is that. And sometimes is what I do. I do magic. But
you don't follow a recipe.
Yeah, I don't follow a recipe.
Well, and like I faced this problem too. Actually, we did as well, because when we started our first business, it was real estate investing. It was pretty straightforward what we were doing.
Pretty easy to describe.
When we opened our wine and liquor store, same type of thing. But when we got into coaching, we had so much experience in a lot of different areas that it was very hard for us to narrow down. But what we did was that we just talked to as many people as we could. And what we did was every time we talked to them, we would tell them what we did, and we would maybe change the messaging. And we just kept doing that until we started to kind of see that, like, when we said it to our ideal customer, they were nodding their head and they agreed. And it took some time, but this is where, like, I use discovery calls also for like market research and to hone in our messaging. So like just quickly walking through it, like when I do a discovery call, handful of questions. So the first one is like, why now? And like, why do you have to make a change now? Like, why are we talking now? And usually what I'll start to figure out is, what are some of the signs that they're ready to now maybe invest in coaching or make a change? So now I know, as I'm looking out for other people, to look for those signs because I know where they're at. Then I'll ask, why me? So that starts to give me a feel for, did they meet me at an in-person event and that's why we're talking? Did they see a post I did on social media? But I kind of get a feel for, where should I be spending my 20% time to get the most effectiveness? Then I start looking at like, where do they want to go? Like, where do they want to see themselves in the future? Where are they currently at today? And what do they see as the gap or the roadblock? And, sometimes I'll even ask like, what else have you tried to do to resolve this? Because now I can see, are they dedicated where they tried some other stuff and they're going to do the work? They just didn't find the right program? Or have they not tried anything else yet? Maybe it's not as urgent. I also can then figure out, who are some of maybe my competitors in that space that I can look at what they do and see how I do it differently. So just a quick 15-minute discovery call, when I'm having all these conversations, not only am I able to, potentially help some people out, but I get a lot of good information around my messaging. And probably the best thing that I did was I went to a conference, and over the course of 4 days, they made you consistently build your messaging out and then just keep telling it to people.
Yep.
So like a basic thing is, I help X, which is the type of person, go from X or Y, where they are today, to Z, where they want to be, by doing
this
so that they can have this result. So if you can start kind of crafting or putting the words into that messaging, and then as Ariana said, when you're just talking to people, see how that resonates, you might tweak it over time, but it helps to kind of hone in. So using that framework then gives you that structure.
Yeah. I think it's to have the baseline. Again, going back to my mother, she always says, there are 3 things always on the recipe. Is the garlic, the onion, and the tomatoes, and after you add up things, but that's the baseline. So for each conversation, there will be a baseline that needs to be kind of, okay, is these, and these, instead of,
Well, and so building off of that too, every client you work with is going to be unique, but what you'll find, and maybe you already have some of this over time, is kind of the framework that you can use when you work with clients. Like, it's your proven process. What's make you different. So the more that you can kind of solidify that, the more that you can then explain to people how you're going to help them and how it's different. Because then you're not customizing it to every client, but every client does have a custom experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So we probably have time for like one more question. Anything else you want to get through today?
No, I think actually I already have good things to starting point. The idea was the 20%. I got the 20%, and make it simple. It's like you think where you want to be, but you need to start with the smallest step, and that's the smallest step is like when you reach the moon, a small step for man, a big step for mankind. So
that's a great lead in. So what is the one action that you're going to take out of this call and start implementing?
It's just place exactly what I do. These 3 main things is what the client needs, wants, or why now, why me, and kind of put at least the baseline process so I can reach and start to craft the message and see what I get by that communication, and start from their wall and go from there.
That's great. And because you're in Lifestyle Builders, you actually have access to that discovery call template and a bunch of the other stuff that we use as well. So like, I really don't use it on calls anymore because I kind of have it down. But for the first, 50 calls I did, I had it next to me to guide me on the questions and then to jot down some of the responses. And then by looking at that afterwards, it really helped me kind of see some of the common themes to craft that message.
No. Yeah, they are really good. Like, that's one of the things you're really good is you have the baseline for everything. That is kind of, okay, you start here, so it's almost like the grade zone. It's like my master always taught me is like white belt, you learn this. Yellow, you learn this, we learn this. That being said, you always put more 10 things on each belt, but the base for each one was there, and that's what you need to stick. And when this base of white belt is done, if you want to put one a little bit, you put, and you have that one for different things.
Yeah. It's, the foundation is kind of where it all starts. And once you have that, it's so much easier to kind of move forward, and you're always going to be learning. You're always going to have new information coming into you from talking to potential clients. You're probably always going to be shifting and changing your message a little bit. But if you at least have that foundation down and it, that makes it so much easier for you with everything you go to do.
No, that's true. Yeah.
All right. So, where is the best place for people to reach out and find you if they want to learn more about you or if they want to connect with you? And let them know that.
Okay, they can reach me on Facebook. So today officially it will start to be a professional Facebook, not just personal. It's NUNO Pires, and the website is B like a B. It's beawarrior.com.
Awesome. And we will make sure to put that link to Nuno's website and to his Facebook page in the show notes, which you can find at tomandariana.com. Actually, I just realized I don't know what number this is, so I need to check the episodes list. I will get back and re-record that part.
So, if you go to tomandariana.com/podcast, you can just search for Nuno and we'll come up to this episode.
Yes. All right, you guys, it's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders. Nuno, thank you so much for coming on and letting us talk through some of those issues and things that you wanted to work on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and a big hello to everyone from Dublin, Ireland. All the best.
Absolutely. And I just want everyone listening to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know another entrepreneur who may benefit from hearing this show, we would so appreciate you being a good friend and sharing it with them. Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a lifestyle builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review.